It was a quiet, almost eerie evening when Jason decided to follow his instincts. For weeks, he had felt something was off with his wife, Claire. At first, he chalked it up to work stress, but as time passed, the small things began to add up. The late nights at the office, her phone always being on silent, the unexplainable absences. Something inside him knew, deep down, that the woman he had trusted with his heart, his life, was drifting away. Jason wasn't the type to jump to conclusions, but his gut had never steered him wrong. He had seen the signs, the sudden distance, and the way she would avoid his gaze at dinner or when they spoke about their future. At first, he had tried to ignore it, thinking it was just a rough patch in their relationship. But tonight, something was different. Something pulled him to act. He had overheard Claire talking on the phone earlier that day about a party. She mentioned it casually, as if it were just another social event. It was nothing out of the ordinary, except for the fact that she had never invited Jason. She told him she was going with a few colleagues, and that was it. No details, no mention of who would be there, and certainly no mention of any of their close friends. Jason knew something wasn't adding up. So, as the sun set and the cold night air began to settle in, Jason made a decision. Without invitation, without warning, he drove to the grand mansion where the party was taking place. He parked a few blocks away, not wanting to draw attention, and walked the rest of the way, his heart beating in his chest like a drum. Every step felt heavier than the last, his mind racing with what he might find. The mansion was bustling with life. The sounds of laughter and upbeat music seeped through the walls as Jason approached the front door. It was easy to blend in with the crowd. After all, it was a party, and no one would pay attention to a man walking in uninvited. He slipped inside, his mind still on high alert. He had no idea what he was looking for or even what he would do when he found it, but he couldn't ignore the feeling that something terrible was about to unfold. Inside, the party was alive. People were dancing, talking in groups, and sipping on cocktails. The mansion's grandeur overwhelmed Jason, but it was the sight of his wife that immediately caught his attention. There she was, Claire, standing with her back to him, laughing with a man who Jason recognized all too well. Alex. Alex wasn't just any man. He was Jason's best friend. He had been a constant in their lives for years. Someone Jason had trusted with his deepest secrets, his hopes, and even his fears. The thought of seeing Claire, his wife, with Alex in such an intimate setting sent a wave of unease through him. Jason tried to shake off the feeling that something was wrong, but as he watched them interact, he couldn't deny what was happening right before his eyes. Claire was leaning in a little too close to Alex. She was laughing a little too loudly, touching his arm a little too often. And Alex? He was reciprocating every gesture, every look, as if it were completely normal. Jason's heart began to pound as he stepped closer, moving through the crowd, trying to get a better view of the situation. He watched in silence as Claire and Alex shared a look that spoke volumes. There was an undeniable chemistry between them. The kind of chemistry that Jason had once shared with Claire, but now it felt foreign, misplaced. Then it happened. Claire reached up to touch Alex's cheek. Her hand lingered for a moment before she pulled him into a slow, intimate kiss. Jason's stomach dropped. His world tilted. He couldn't breathe. Everything inside him froze as he stood there, in the middle of the room, watching his wife kiss his best friend. His mind raced with confusion, disbelief, and a deep, gnawing pain that only betrayal could bring. How long had this been going on? How could she do this to him? How could Alex, the one person Jason thought he could trust, do this to him? The minutes seemed to stretch on forever as Jason's emotions swirled around him. Anger, humiliation, hurt. It was a cocktail of pain he had never experienced before. But more than anything, Jason felt a deep, bone-chilling sense of betrayal. It wasn't just the kiss. It was everything. The lies, the secrets, the broken trust. He had given them both everything, and now they were tearing it all apart. Jason stood frozen, unable to tear his eyes away from the scene. But the moment Claire pulled away from Alex, she noticed him. Her eyes locked with his, wide with shock. There was no hiding the truth now. Her face went pale as she realized that Jason had seen everything. But Jason didn't give her the satisfaction of a confrontation. He didn't need to hear her excuses or her apologies. What was done was done. Without saying a word, Jason turned on his heel and left the party. His mind was a whirlwind as he walked out the door, his emotions in chaos. What was he supposed to do now? Should he confront them? Should he scream at Claire and Alex? Should he make a scene? Number. That wasn't his style. Jason knew exactly what he had to do, and it was far more calculated than a loud, emotional outburst. He needed revenge, but he wasn't going to make it easy for them. He was going to make them feel the weight of their betrayal in a way they never expected. Jason didn't rush to confront Claire. Instead, he took a step back, giving himself the time to think, to plan, and to make sure that the revenge he sought was something meaningful, something that would hit them where it hurt most. Jason had always been good with technology. He was a master at maneuvering behind the scenes, using his skills to turn the tables when needed. And tonight, he was going to do just that. The next morning, Jason began to put his plan into motion. He worked quietly, sending discreet messages to a few people he trusted, asking for help. He set up the necessary equipment in the mansion where the party had been held, using hidden cameras and projectors to ensure that no one would notice. It was all about timing. He would make sure that Claire and Alex felt the sting of their actions at the very moment they least expected it. As the evening approached, Jason prepared for what was coming. He could already feel the anticipation rising within him. Claire had been calling, texting, apologizing, but Jason ignored her. He didn't want to hear her excuses. He had already made up his mind. It was too late for apologies. That night, the party was in full swing again. Jason made his way to the mansion, slipping inside unnoticed. He moved quickly to the back room where the setup was waiting. He double-checked the equipment and made sure everything was ready. Then, with a steady breath, he triggered the video. The lights in the mansion flickered. The music suddenly cut off. A silence fell over the crowd as everyone turned to look at the screen. Claire's face appeared, followed by Alex's. The video played their intimate moments from the previous night. Claire and Alex kissing, laughing, and getting far too close for comfort. It was a devastating blow, and there was no escape. The room was silent as the footage unfolded. For a moment, Jason stood back, hidden in the shadows, watching the chaos unfold. He saw Claire's face go pale, her hands shaking as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She tried to speak, to explain, but no one was listening. Alex, too, stood there, mortified, as the people in the room began to whisper. But the real punishment wasn't the video itself. It was the fact that Claire and Alex would never forget the moment when they were publicly exposed, their secrets laid bare for everyone to see. It was a humiliation neither of them could ever undo. Jason didn't need to say a word. He knew that what he had done was more than enough. As he slipped out of the mansion, he felt a sense of relief wash over him. His revenge had been swift, calculated, and effective. The days that followed were tumultuous for Claire and Alex. The fallout was inevitable. Claire tried to reach out to Jason, her messages filled with regret and apologies, but it was too late. Jason had already moved on. He didn't need her forgiveness. He didn't need her lies. Jason took the time to heal. He spent weeks focusing on himself, reconnecting with friends, rediscovering his passions, and finding peace in the wake of the storm. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Jason realized that his future was not defined by the betrayal he had endured, but by how he chose to rise above it. As for Claire and Alex, they faced the consequences of their actions. Claire lost the respect of her friends, her colleagues, and her family. Alex disappeared from the scene, his reputation in tatters. Their affair, once a secret, became their shame. But Jason, he found something greater: freedom, a fresh start. And that, in the end, was the sweetest form of revenge. For more captivating stories like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thanks for your cooperation.